And it was, I mean, there was just something about that, because I feel like I've struggled with
happiness will descend upon you from time to time, right?
But just kind of this low level, it's something that's been nagging me. It's like, actually, it's more like, yeah, it's uncertainty. I'm constantly uncertain and not very confident.
And then also perhaps during sorrowful times, all the people around you are suffering, right?
Okay, here's an example. We were trying to tie anxiety down to an even more basic concept like entropy. Mm-hmm. And entropy is in some sense, the study of entropy is part of the domain of physics. So we were trying to push the issue of anxiety all the way down to the level of physics in that paper. Mm-hmm. That's the background, intellectual exercise. So imagine this. So picture this. So you're driving somewhere in your car. Maybe you want to go visit your girlfriend. Okay, so you want to see her. So now you're in this frame, right? And the goal is the destination point and what's waiting there. And the map obviously includes your car. So you see your car, you're inside, you see your car. You think you see your car, but you don't. And you don't even want to. Part of what car designers do is make it unnecessary for you to see the car. See, they cover the whole car with a homogeneous shell. Mm-hmm. That's like a 1 pixel image. And that's so that you don't get discomforted by the complexity of the car. Mm-hmm. And the 1 pixel representation of the car, which is this shiny outer shell, is perfectly appropriate as long as the car works. Because you can reduce it to nothing. You can reduce it to an assumption. Okay, so now you're driving to see your girlfriend and a warning light goes on in the dash. Well, what's happening is the implicit complexity of the automobile has just revealed itself to you. And it's threatening the integrity of your map. And that's destabilizing your emotions. And the reason they destabilize is because you've entered a high entropy state. You were in a low entropy state where everything was certain. You could get from point A to B, and you knew exactly how to do that. You knew exactly how much energy it was going to take, and you knew how much time it was going to take. And all of a sudden, something has emerged from the chaos that underlies everything, the complex chaos that underlies everything, and it's signaling to you. And what does it signal? Well, part of what it signals is your unbelievable stupidity in relationship to your car. Mm-hmm. Because when I was your age, I could sort of understand a car, and if something went wrong with it, I could sort of maybe fix it, and probably not, but at least I could understand it. But now it's like, forget it. All that electronics, you can't even get at it. And so the light goes on, and see what happens now is the map has now become of indeterminate length. How many steps is it going to take you to get to where you were going? Well, it depends on how serious the issue is with your car. Well, that's where your mind starts to go. It's like, well, how serious is this? Should I buy a new car? Was I an idiot when I bought this car to begin with? Am I going to be able to afford this? Am I going to get taken for a ride by a malevolent mechanic because I'm ignorant? And so there's a whole problem of ethics immediately emerges as well. Mm-hmm. Because now the car doesn't work, but that means you might have to have an encounter with untrustworthy pseudo helpers. And that's also another revelation of your own insufficiency and ignorance, because maybe you're so naive that you're easily fleeced and you're just a walking target for that sort of thing. And all of that pops up. It's the Hydra, it's the Medusa, it's the snakes that are everywhere. They pops up and freezes you. Mm-hmm. That happens all the time in life, and that's part of what I was writing about in Maps of Meaning. And so then the question is, how do you deal with all those snakes? That's the permanent question. You're permanently susceptible to the radical disruption of your low entropy maps. Mm-hmm. Permanently susceptible to that. Well, you can't build a map that isn't susceptible to that. So what do? You build yourself into someone who can deal with the anomalous. And that's the hero who faces the dragon. So what's a dragon? A dragon is a monstrous assemblage of unpredictable predators. Tree, cat, snake, bird. That's a dragon. There's no such thing as dragons. Yes, there is. It's a sophisticated, abstract conceptualization of the possibility of predation and disruption itself. It took the human imagination untold centuries to formulate that representation. It's danger as such. Okay, now we have a representation of danger as such. What is the human being who can deal with that as such? Well, that's a religious ideal.
And you should figure out what that is for you. And part of that's definitely going to be to develop your character as much as possible, to dispense with those parts of you that are unworthy. And then maybe, if you're fortunate and you do that carefully, then happiness will descend upon you from time to time. And that's the best you've got. And then also perhaps during sorrowful times, or worse, evil times, the fact that you've strengthened your character and that you're aiming at the highest that you can conceptualize, that'll give you the moral fortitude to endure without becoming corrupted during those times, and to be someone who can be relied upon in a crisis. There's an aim. You know, one of the things I've told my audience is, the young guys take to this a lot. I said, you should be the strongest person at your father's funeral, right? Well, that's something to aim for. It's a transition, a generational transition, and it means that, well, all the people around you are suffering because of their loss. They have someone to turn to who can illustrate by their behavior that the force of character is sufficient to move you beyond the catastrophe. And you need that. And that's a great thing to hypothesize as your aim. And happiness just evaporates as irrelevant in light of that sort of conceptualization.